Ordered. Chair recognizes Mr. Burlison from Missouri.
Thank you, Chairman Comer and Ms. Criswell. Thank you for being here with us today. You know, the underlying facts behind why we're here has got me thinking about, how do we end up at this point? And I think it didn't happen overnight. This is not just one anecdotal story. This is a part of a long list of grievances that the American people have experienced. You know, the whole thing is just very, very familiar. The names change, the agencies change, the bureaucrats change, but the people on the receiving end of it are still the same. You see, the bigger the government, the smaller the individual. And it's these individuals who feel like, and they don't feel like it, they've been told that they're garbage. And they're treated like garbage. And when the President of the United States uses words like, like has been used, deplorables, garbage, Nazis, then one can expect your agencies to treat people in the way in which you're talking about them. As you know, we have a FEMA supervisor that expressly directed volunteers to go door to door offering assistance to bypass the homes of homes that had Trump campaign signs. These are American citizens. These are taxpayers. These are our countrymen and women who just lost everything, all their possessions, and they're being treated like garbage. And look, I know that you have said, and I think you've done well today, that political discrimination is not tolerated within the agency. But it looks to me, and I think it's clear to a lot of Americans that they feel the same way after the election earlier this month, and I think that's why the election results ended up the way they did, because it's the sentiment of the American people. The guy who went through, because they feel like they can relate to the guy who went through all of what was clearly a weaponized prosecution for whether it's the Department of Justice. American citizens see that while he's being attacked by the Department of Justice, they've been attacked. We had concerned parents at school board meetings labeled as terrorists. We had Catholics labeled as terrorists. We had excessive sentences handed out for pro-life activists, and we had the aggressive targeting of President Biden's political opponents while slow-walking the Hunter Biden criminal investigation. And this is not new, because during the Obama years, we had the IRS was used to target conservative groups. Remember? I mean, we had Lois Lerner and that agency stopping the attempts for groups that had the word Tea Party or Patriot from being able to get tax-exempt status. Or how about during COVID, when the Biden administration pressured social media platforms to censor, quote, disinformation about COVID-19, including alternative treatment options, or their concerns were forced vaccinations, or if somebody had the idea that it leaked from a U.S. government-funded coronavirus lab in Wuhan rather than some animal in a wet market. The American people, who have been called garbage, we saw a federal government do more to stop the distribution of ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine than it did fentanyl. We saw all of these and more. We saw rent-a-riot campaigns like BLM and Antifa not being prosecuted for all of their fires and destruction, but yet when conservatives have a protest, it's called an insurrection. And grandmas and grandpas who supported Trump are still being thrown in jail. We saw financial institutions work with law enforcement to mark Americans as domestic terror threats for buying religious texts or firearms or supporting Donald Trump. There's so many other examples. Trump himself has been attacked by the Department of Justice, Jack Smith, Fani Willis, all this lawfare. We have the FBI censoring information about the Hunter Biden laptop. We have the Democratic Party laundering fraudulent Oppo research like the bogus Steele dossier to journalists and the intelligence agencies, all back them up, siding with a particular political party. The whole thing was so absurd and stupid, but again, this culture of political bias against conservatives and Trump is how this is cultivated. The American people want and they deserve their government to be nonpartisan. They want their government to be fair. They want justice to be blind. And they're frustrated when they see their government weaponized against them because they dare to support the guy who said, let's drain the swamp. And so this didn't happen overnight. It came from a long litany of events where some Americans were treated like garbage. And I can't wait for DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, to get in under the next administration and start making this government work more efficiently. Because this town does need a purge. This town needs an enema. And honestly, I can't wait. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Mr.